Welcome to Healthy Vibes with United Tribes, a podcast where we discuss our spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical health. I'm your host, Robert Fox, Cultural Wellness Specialist at United Tribes Technical College. Today's guest is Linda Black Elk, Food Sovereignty Coordinator at United Tribes Technical College. Welcome, Linda.
Thanks so much for having me, Robert.
Can you tell us about yourself and how you started working at United Tribes Technical College?
Sure. Wow, I love being here at UTTC. I've only been here a couple of years, but I was at Sitting Bull College down on the Standing Rock Reservation. I taught there for almost 20 years, and I love the tribal college system. For a little while, I thought I might want to try something different, so I left for just a year and ended up coming back. And I was so thankful that I saw that my former supervisor and good friend, Brian, had a position open with the land grant department here at United Tribes. And I've been working in food sovereignty for a really long time. I'm an ethnobotanist, so I've always been working with plants and how to use them as food and medicine. So when I saw this position open, I snatched it up.
What is food sovereignty and why is it important to our health and community?
That's a great question. So food sovereignty is really, where we, the people, have a say, have control over all aspects of food production. So who's growing our food and what are they putting on it? What are they spraying it with? Who's harvesting our food and are they being paid a fair wage? How is our food then being transported? How is it being processed? And what happens to it? Everything that happens to our food before it actually gets to our table. That's all food, that's all food sovereignty. And being able to have a say in all of that stuff, that's food sovereignty. And that's just so important because, maybe we're having dinner and what does it mean if we're eating dinner and we have no idea how that food actually got to our plate? Where was it before it came to our home? How many herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, or other things did they spray on it? We have a right to know those things, and that's really what food sovereignty is all about.
How does it affect our health and wellness, food sovereignty?
First, let me say that there's such a thing as food security, right?
Yeah.
Food security is something that people have talked about for many years. And that basically means that people have enough calories to get by, right? So making sure that kids just have enough to eat. But what we've come to realize is that food security, having enough calories, isn't enough. Food sovereignty takes that a step further and says that we have control over what we're actually putting into our bodies. We have a say about that. Are we able to eat our traditional foods, which tend to be unprocessed and much less sugar, much less refined flour, much healthier fats as opposed to processed fats? And so if we live food sovereignty, we are eating the foods of our ancestors, which tends to be so much better for our bodies, but not just our physical health. Those foods feed us physically, but they also feed us mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually.
What does food sovereignty mean to you personally? Like, how do you understand it?
Oh gosh, me as an individual, food sovereignty is me having a say over what I put into my body. I remember walking into grocery stores and looking around and thinking, do I really have choice? You can walk down a cereal aisle and see 200 cereals in these big chain supermarkets, right? But do I really have a choice about what's on those shelves? That's what food sovereignty means to me. It means that I have enough information to be able to say, maybe I'm not going to eat cereal today. Maybe instead, I'm actually going to take some of the hand harvested wild rice that was given to me by my Ojibwe friends, and maybe some of the wild plums and chokecherries that my husband and I picked together for our family. And I'm going to incorporate those into a much healthier breakfast than what I could ever find in the cereal aisle. And that's what I'm going to feed my children. And then I'm going to talk to my children about what these foods are, where they came from, and how we are connected to these foods and therefore the earth. That's really what food sovereignty is to me.
Yeah. And with your position, how do you try and convey that expression to the community?
To the community and my students. I love my students so much. And so, for example, I'm teaching Indigenous food sovereignty as a class at United Tribes this semester. And I have my students do a number of food sovereignty projects. So I know you'll love this, Robert. One of their first assignments was to collect and eat 5 dandelion leaves. And most of them, even though they're all interested in food sovereignty, intrigued by it, most of them had never eaten a dandelion leaf before, or really any wild foods technically, right? And so they all were just so struck by the fact that they could go right outside and find healthy, safe, traditional food for free, just there, and that really meant so much to them. And then their most recent project, which I know that you'll love, is I gave them a list of 6 typical res foods, which we all know and love. Fry bread, an Indian taco, a bologna sandwich, what I call the proverbial fruit salad, which doesn't really have a lot of fruit in it. And I asked them to decolonize it in some way. And so they have really been loving that, those hands-on projects.
Speaking about different things with your students in the community, what are some tips that would better help the community and the students understand food sovereignty? So
one of the most simple tips that I can give people if they're interested in, really making food sovereignty a part of their everyday lives is to start small, start slow. Don't overwhelm yourself and don't food shame yourself, right? We all have colonized palates, colonized diets, and those things are very hard to break free of. Even though my family, we really try to have traditional foods in every single meal, I love commodity cheese. It's one of my favorite things in the world. And I feel like, okay, I can have a little bit of that and still, really make food sovereignty important to me. So start off slow, make small exchanges. Instead of having canned sweet corn in your meals, look for indigenous varieties of corn that you prepare yourself that don't come in a can. Some dried Mandan bride corn, for example, so delicious. You can throw those into soup. So much healthier than canned sweet corn. Instead of eating white potatoes that have been sprayed with an astounding number of herbicides and pesticides, instead look for potatoes that maybe are purple or orange or yellow. They tend to be much lower glycemic index, much healthier for our bodies, and they tend to be a lot tastier as well. So just start slow, incorporate a few things at a time, and you'll get there.
What are some of the traditional foods that you know of, like wild turnips and stuff like that? And how would you prepare them?
Awesome. Yeah. So I would say, the prairie turnip, the Indian turnip, also known as tipsila in the Lakota language, Pediomelum esculentum, if you need the scientific name, it is a fantastic tuber that feels like a starchy potato when you're eating it, but it's actually a complex carbohydrate rather than a simple carbohydrate like a white potato is. So it won't raise and spike your blood sugar the way that potatoes do. So it's very simple to incorporate those into your life just by, taking the dried prairie turnips, putting them into, a crock pot overnight to soften, and then, just eating them. You can have them for breakfast, maybe with a little bit of salt. You can cut them up and throw them into soup, and, very delicious. I was talking about dandelions earlier. Dandelions grow pretty much all year long, except in the winter. And the entire dandelion is edible. A lot of people don't realize that. You can eat the flowers, the stems, the leaves, and the roots. They are also medicinal and edible, and I'm a big fan of plants that are sort of multi-purpose like that are food and medicine, right? Food is medicine. And so I think it's so great to, have something like a dandelion that's going to stabilize blood sugar, lower blood pressure. It even is full of antioxidants, so it's anti-cancer, and you can make a salad out of it, So we love to tell our kids when they're eating a dandelion salad that, hey, you're eating a salad that's full of antioxidants and nutrients. So dandelions are another great and simple one. And then I would say the last thing that I'll say right now is all the berries. Think of all the traditional berries, all the traditional fruits that we have all around us. Right here, all around Bismarck, North Dakota, we have buffalo berries, we have wild plums, we have choke cherries, we have June berries. And if you go out and look for them, you're getting lots of physical exercise that way. But then if you bring them into your homes, you're also getting all of the incredible nutrients that are contained in those fruits. So those are just some things that you can start eating today.
Also, I noticed a lot of the stuff you're talking about. Sometimes people consider those weeds, or they try and get rid of them, but they don't realize that a lot of them are medicinal and healthy. What other things would you do to help your spirituality or your wellness when you're harvesting plants or animals or fruit?
Thank you so much for asking that. That's an excellent question. So I think that's one of the most amazing things about food sovereignty is that you aren't, as I said earlier, you're not just feeding your physical body. You are feeding yourself spiritually and emotionally. So when you go out there and you communicate with these plants, you get in touch with the earth. Numerous scientific studies have shown that even the soil contains microbes that fight depression, right? So just if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling depressed, if you have a lot of anxiety, just get outside and start digging in the dirt, plant one thing or collect one thing, get out into nature. And of course, always follow the protocols that were put in place by your ancestors. That differs a lot in North Dakota because we have, your people up on the Fort Berthold Reservation, the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara peoples. We have the Ojibways up north. We have the Lakota and Dakota here also. And so there are different protocols to follow, different rules to follow when you go out and harvest these. Try to find out what those are, maybe from someone that you trust or from an elder, and follow those protocols. Make those offerings, whether it's tobacco. Some people offer a drink of water for those plants. Whatever those are, if you follow those protocols, it's going to help put you back in touch with Mother Earth, back in touch with your culture, and back in touch with the plants.
I've seen my grandparents and mother and them they go out there and they'll sing songs and stuff that are to the plants while they're planting them, when they're growing them, and when they're harvesting them. What is the significance of that?
So that's also part of some of those protocols for collecting plants. Some people, some tribes, some nations, some cultures, that's their gift back to the plants, to sing to them. There are scientific studies that also show that singing to plants helps them grow, right? Plants take in oxygen, or take in carbon dioxide, and they give off oxygen. And so when we breathe on them, they take in our breath, the stuff that we breathe out, literally, and then they give us oxygen to breathe in. What an amazing gift. So, I believe that's part of why we sing to plants, but also they hear us, right? As Indigenous people, as people of color, we believe that the plants hear us and that they can also feel. And so I believe that they know that, we're trying to give them that gift of song.
Is there anything else you would like to discuss or talk about during this podcast?
I think I'm good. I would just encourage everyone, it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what your background is. You can have food sovereignty in your everyday life. We all need to be eating better, need to be eating healthier. We all need to start growing our own food and to start appreciate those. So yeah, if you have any questions, please contact me here at United Tribes.
Thank you, Linda, for being here and giving us your wisdom and information.
Thanks so much for having me, Robert. It's been fun.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Healthy Vibes with United Tribes. Please like us and subscribe for more interviews and content, or connect with us online at uttc.edu. Thank you for joining us, and remember to prioritize your health and wellness every day. Way to go, stay.